and welcome to my channel. Today, more than ever, it's a tricky pickle to stand out on Instagram or any social media platform. But no need to worry, I've got you covered. It's still possible to stand out, and with these creative techniques and tips, you're gonna be rocking it in. So I have now been on Instagram for 2 years, sort of doing this like really daily and putting a lot of time and effort into my photography. And I think one of the secret sauce behind my success, and which has led me to get featured by Instagram 6 times, has really been that I have taken my ideas and really tried to push them creatively and try to offer something that has that twist, a little bit of a surprising element. And I think that is why people keep coming back to me and my photos, and that sort of they get something new and that maybe they don't see anywhere else. Now, that doesn't mean that all my photos or anybody who should feel the pressure of, oh, I have to be so original with every photo, because that's not humanly possible. But what I do think is that you can be more specific and more smart, if you will, with the ideas that you put out there and how you execute them. Because the key is really details, and it's not really about all of the fluff. It actually comes very much down to the small things, and that is sort of what will then, make you stand out on a platform like Instagram. All right, so if you're ready for it, and I've got my Scottish shirt on, let's get to it. Also, before we start, if you want to do the subscribey thingy and the likey thingy down below, I would be super happy, happy-go-lucky. And also, if you want to leave a comment and maybe tell me what you thought about this video, or if there are things you'd like to see in the future, that would also be super awesome. All right, but now to the tips. The first tip is to figure out your wow factor. In order to stand out with your photos anywhere on the internet, I think it's important that you have a little wow factor. Now, this doesn't mean that you have to travel to exotic locations or spend a lot of money on, outfits or gadgets or anything like that. No, I think it is about seeing the potential around you and really learning to draw inspiration from where you already live and the life you already lead. So what I mean by that is, for example, I use nature quite often, and I also try to go and scout out locations here in London, like urban sort of locations, and that is one way that I try to bring a little bit of wow into my photos. Another way is I try to have creative ideas and just something that will make people go like, oh wow, I hadn't thought about that before. The second tip is to tell a story. So often I see photos that just show something instead of telling a story with the photo. As humans, our brains are hardwired to always search for that story, what happens next, what's going on here, and always sort of like busy analyzing it. So I think if you can tap into that storytelling, you'll have a much better chance of standing out, and it's just going to be like a more interesting photo. So try to instead show some context around the photo that can create that narrative around it, and that will create a deeper, I think, bond with the viewer and the photo, because they will be more invested in, oh, what is happening here, or what has happened here, or what is about to happen here. So I have a good example of this, which is this ice cream mess that I made like last summer, I think. And instead of just showing sort of the artwork on our yard that I made with this ice cream, I have showed also a little bit of, my feet and my hand. So you can really create that story in your head of, oh, the ice cream has melted, and this, shapes have formed. And there is a whole story already there of all kinds of things of, an ice cream moment gone bad, but then something fun happened instead. And I believe that without maybe having my hand and my feet in that photo, you wouldn't get the same connection to that photo necessarily. And that's just one way where you can show context. Obviously, showing the surroundings, and again, like having human presence in there is a super, super good way to add that storytelling layer. Oh, there's a little birdie that is sitting right in this bush, and it's singing so loudly. Hey, little birdie. Oh, I can see it. You also want to be on YouTube, little birdie? be on YouTube. Yeah. Oh, it's pretty singing. Sing more. Okay, but maybe we should continue. Number 3 is to consider your choice of colors. So this has quite a lot to do actually with the editing, but also in the photo process itself. If you want to stand out, the colors is super, super important. And I find that often if you look at any type of niche, you know, the kind of travel photos or urban photos, or I don't know, the more heavily photoshopped fantasy photos, they usually have a specific style that they edit them and the colors that are quite dominant. So one way to stand out is to, you know, maybe not do what everybody else is already doing, but trying to put your own twist by, you know, going a little bit, maybe a different path. So for example, my photos, some of them have very clear sort of optical and magical illusions in them, but I try to always make them still look quite realistic. So it's very believable, instead of going for that like super saturated or super contrasty look. Number 4 is to do a fourth perspective photo. So I love doing these photos, and I've done a bunch, and I still think they are a super good way to stand out with your photos. A fourth perspective photo basically means that you have something that is further away from the camera, and then you have an object or something that is closer to the camera, and then in the photo they come together so it looks like they're in the same plane. Which this allows you to have a play on perspective. Therefore, fourth perspective is the name of this type of photos. So there are 2 ways you can go about doing these photos. You can do this with an iPhone, but then you need a friend or a model that will help you take that photo, because the iPhone can sharpen both on things that are close and far away at the same time. For the camera, because the camera can't focus both on something that is very close to the camera and very far away from the camera, you'll have to use a program like Photoshop to combine them afterwards. And the thing to be mindful if you're going to combine them in Photoshop afterwards is to have take the both photos so that the light direction is comes from the same direction. So it makes sense when you put them together and that it doesn't look photoshopped in. Alright, so the last tip is to think like an artist. In the end, the thing that will make you succeed is to think outside the box and think like an artist. What this means is, you know, experiment and try out a bunch of things to find your thing, because that is truly the only path to success with this stuff. And I know in the beginning you might have to imitate and maybe even copy a little bit, you know, people's works that you really admire, and that's totally fine. The thing is to keep reminding yourself that you're, you know, on the journey to find your own thing and your own style, and that is what will make people, oh my god, oh, this whole tree just moved. That is the thing that will make people come back to you and respond to you. Because I believe, you know, you can't really fake anything with these kind of things. People see through that. Just try to find the things that really touch your heart. So cheesy, but you know what I mean. Alright, I hope you liked this video. It would make me super happy if you would subscribe and like this video. That just gives me so much more sort of motivation and energy to keep doing these videos. Also, if you want to leave a comment and maybe tell me what you thought about this video or what you'd like to see me more, that would be awesome.